All right, so the next object we're going to consider what we call a special object. You can draw a line from the start point to the end point, and it's going to basically create a dot. Well, a point has a little bit different functionality and features, and usually points would be maybe if you're staking out, you want to put a point for a stakeout of a radius of a curve, or maybe it's a control point. So we're going to show you a few different methods of inputting a point. So I'm going to create a point. Let's go ahead and isolate a layer here. Let's put this back a curb as our object. So we're going to layer isolate that. And we're going to also then make it active. So let's go and create a new layer, and we'll click on new layer. We'll call it points. We can change the color if we want to. Let's make it red, and we'll click. We want to make that active. So just double click in status, that makes it active, and then click the checkbox. So what we're going to do now is we're going to type in points. So if you type in PO, it's a point, or you could type in point. And if you hit S for settings, now something I want to show you too is if you right click, you can grab those, anything that's here that's underlined. If you right click, it brings up a pop-up menu that you can select and go right to settings. By default, yours is probably set to this dot. It's kind of hard to see unless you change the size. You can make the size relative to screen display or absolute units. We'll keep it as relative to display. We'll keep it at 5, but let's change it to a circle with a cross in it, right? And then we're just going to hit the checkbox there, click the checkbox, and now it's going to ask us for a position. So if you just touch that arc, you can see that it puts a glyph at the center point, and I can click on that center point there, and now I've got a point object that is the radius of that particular arc. And if we click on it, you'll see under the geometry, it's got a easting and a northing and an elevation. So if we wanted to elevate this point, we could do that by just changing the elevation of the point. So real simple to create a point using the create point tool. Now, if you go and take a look, let's say you've got this uh, file here, and if we take a look at this PDF, you'll see that we've got some coordinates down here. So we've got a northing and an easting for our 2 points. So I'm just going to move this over to another monitor so I can see it at the same time that I'm drawing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a point. So I'm going to go point again. And this time it's going to ask me for a position. Now remember, your coordinates are X, Y. Your northing is your your Y, sorry, and your easting is your X. So even most people when they say, well, it's northing easting, make sure you put it in correctly, otherwise it'll be flip-flop. So if you type in 11897810.70 and then a comma and then 6814313.54 and then another comma, there's your X, Y, and this is your Z. My Z has an elevation of 26, and I press enter, it's going to create that point right there, which is exactly where that control point should be. Okay, so that's how we would then import that control point, and you'll see that it's creating it relative to the screen and the display. So because I was zoomed out, it's a lot bigger. And when I come in, if I hit regen or rebuild, you'll see that it changes the size of that point object. So regen is another command that you may not be aware of. If you type in rebuild, RE for rebuild or regen, it'll regenerate your display and it'll clean up your arcs. And if they're tessellated, meaning they're kind of jagged, that's what the rebuild will do. So that's the kind of neat thing about a point object is it'll change and based on my regeneration of my display. So it's relative to the screen. That's what that setting is on the point object.